Welcome back to the continuation of our cardboard build series. Today we're creating this castle keep, a large imposing piece of terrain that works perfectly on its own or alongside the walls and towers from the previous build. Once completed, we're left with an impressive centerpiece for the table. I've created a PDF guide to go along with the build, which is available over on Patreon, along with all the previous guides from our previous models. I've broken the build into 3 main sections to give us extra replayability: a large base, a keep structure, and a detachable roof, allowing us to play inside as well. Let's get started with the base. We'll need some large pieces of cardboard for this stage, a 16 by 16 inch base and some 2 inch high side pieces. At the front, we'll leave a 2 inch gap to add some steps later. To create a raised wall effect, we want a ½ inch above the side pieces to sit proud above the base. I mark a line ½ inch down from the top of each of the side pieces. This gives us a clear guide where the hot glue needs to go. Once all the sides are glued on, flip the whole piece over and run an extra bead of hot glue along the joins for added strength. The cardboard I'm using here is double walled, so it handles this 16 inch span really well. If your card is thinner or you notice any sagging, you can easily glue some cross braces underneath for extra support. Next, I want to thicken the walls and add some visual interest. Throughout the build, we'll be using lots of ½ inch wide strips of card in various lengths, so go ahead and cut plenty of these now. Work your way around the walls, hot gluing the strips in place and trimming them to fit as you go. For some extra decoration, cut 1½ inch strips and glue them vertically along the steps and the corners. If you end up with any little gaps like I did, just fill them with small cut-offs of cardboard. For the steps, measure the front gap. It should be 2 inches if everything's gone to plan. Cut a piece to width, then mark ½ inch steps, layering additional card on top until the height matches the surrounding base. Once everything lines up, glue the steps into position. At this stage there's lots of exposed cardboard edges, and we want a smoother surface for texturing. Masking tape is perfect for this. It's cheap, easy to work with, and gives us a clean surface for the next stage. Cover all exposed edges with the tape, pressing it down firmly. Now we'll add some simple flagstones. Cut lots of cereal box squares just under 1 inch I use 0.8 inches, which leaves a nice readable gap at tabletop distance. You can place these by eye, but I found it much easier to draw a light grid first and then fill in the spaces. Spread PVA glue all around the surface, then press the squares into place. With the base finished and left to dry, we can move on to the keep. Cut a 12 by 12 inch base and glue 1/2 inch strips underneath to act as the base. We want the finished keep to measure 10 inch squares, so accuracy matters here. We'll need 2 pieces at 10 inches by 4 inches, 4 pieces at 9.8 inches by 4 inches, that's 10 inches minus the thickness of 2 walls, and 2 pieces at 9.6 inches by 4 inches, that's 10 inches minus the thickness of 4 walls. On 2 of the 10 by 4 pieces and 2 of the 9.8 by 4 pieces, we'll cut some arches. For the arches, draw a line 1 inch down from the top. Along the bottom, mark at 1 inch, a 1.5 inch gap, a 1 inch gap, 3 inch gap, 1 inch, and 1.5 inch gap. Draw vertical lines up to the top guideline. For the smaller arches, mark a line 2 inches up. Use something round or a compass if you have one to draw the arch tops. Then cut them out. Use the finished piece as a template to transfer the design to the remaining sections. On the 12 by 12 inch base, mark out where you want your walls to sit. I push mine right to the back, which leaves a 2 inch play area at the front and 1 inch on each side, but you can centre it if you prefer. Glue the 2 10 by 4 walls onto the front and back. And the 9.8 by 4 walls for the sides. To block in the arches and create the inner walls, dry fit the remaining pieces first. The 9.8 inches go on the back and front, and the 9.6 inch pieces go on each side. Trace the arches, this is just to mark where the glue needs to go, then glue them into place. Let's add some more 1/2 inch strips for decoration. I use thicker card to form a top trim and thinner cards to add some columns between the arches. As before, cover all the exposed edges with masking tape. For the arches, cut thin strips and snip the tape so it curves cleanly around the arch. Finish by adding cereal box flagstones to the interior floor, then set everything aside to dry. For the detachable roof, cut a 11 by 11 inch piece. The slight overhang adds visual depth to our model. Build up the edges with 1/2 inch strips until the height reaches 1/2 inch. For some corner posts, cut 1 by 1 inch squares and cut 1 1/4 inch caps. Stack them gluing with hot glue until they reach around 3 1/4 inches high, then glue on the caps. Fill any gaps with scrap card and tape the edges and add the flagstones. With construction complete, it's time for texturing. We'll use a tissue paper stone technique. It's quick, cheap and very effective. I mix up some PVA with grey paint and water to create a coloured, sticky, runny mix that we can paint all over. 1 part PVA adds strength once dried and sticks the paper down as we work. 2 parts grey paint is going to be our base colour, and 4 parts water makes it runny enough to spread nicely. Work one section at a time, brushing on the mixture and laying tissue paper over the surface. Using a stiff bristle brush, stipple the tissue into the gaps. If it tears, just add more tissue and continue. Once everything's covered, leave it to dry fully. I left mine overnight. Once dry, give everything a heavy dry brush with a mid-grey. Using a makeup brush, wipe most of the paint off, then work it back and forth so it catches only the raised texture. As the brush dries, you can be more aggressive. Enjoy this part, it's the most fun for me. Next, do a lighter dry brush with a very pale grey. Focus on edges and high points. This helps define the shape from a distance. To add some extra interest, mix various thin washes of blue, skin tone, red, dark green and yellow, and apply them randomly with a makeup brush, letting the colours blend naturally on the model. If you feel it gets too colourful, a light grey dry brush once dried will knock it back again. For deeper contrast, use a thin Payne's grey wash and run it into the gaps between the flagstones. You can really use any dark paint here, a watered down black works just as well, but I like the subtle blue colour that Payne's grey gives. We'll finish with a simple wooden door. Trace your door cutout twice onto cereal box card. You'll need one for each side. To create some wood-like cardboard, I take a sheet of card and drag a craft knife across it to create wood grain lines. Then I build up colour using dark brown, light brown and grey paints, dragging the brush to create streaks and variation, and cut that into thin strips. Glue on your wood textured cardboard and trim the excess. Darken the recesses with brown paint. Lightly dry brush the door with grey. And finish with an overall brown wash. Once dry, hot glue the door into place, trimming to fit if needed. And that's it, a large imposing piece of terrain that works on its own or alongside the walls and gatehouse from the previous episodes. Used separately, the base could even represent a ruined courtyard or a central plaza, maybe somewhere in Osgiliath or Gondor. Thanks as always to everyone who watches, likes and comments on the videos, and a huge thanks to my patrons for supporting me on this journey. I'll make the build PDF available over on Patreon if you want to support and get your own copy.